Hi everyone, Heather here with Astrology with Heather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. This one is for Monday, December 24th, all the way through to Sunday, December 30th of 2018. And before we get into the forecast today, I do want to make a real quick announcement for those who are not already aware. I am doing an end of the year sale on all of my webinars that I taught in 2018 through my own website. And so my astrocartography and astrology of place webinar, where we looked at how to find the best locations for travel and for living, that's on sale right now for 25% off. And my astro navigation for 2019 webinar that I taught with Robert Phoenix just a couple of months ago, that's on sale for 50% off. And you know, it's a really great webinar for looking at some of the most powerful aspects that are going to be influencing us and the most powerful transits that are going to be influencing us for all of 2019 and even into 2020. So that's on sale. The link is in the description of this video down below. All right, and so this week we have a few. It's not as crazy as some of the weeks have been recently. I mentioned in my past couple of videos, the end of December, the middle to end of December is a little bit more calm, which is good because we're gearing up for eclipse season at the start of January. I believe the first eclipse is on January 6th. So that's going to be the next new moon that we have, the next lunar cycle. But up until that point, it's not quite so crazy. But we do actually have a couple of interesting patterns and aspects going on in the astrology this week. We're starting off the week on Christmas Eve, December 24th, with a square between Mercury and Neptune, which can bring a lot of confusion on a mental and communication level, because Mercury, you know, rules the mind, it rules communication, it rules things like merchandise too. I would say with Mercury in square with Neptune, there could be some confusion around purchases, last minute purchases, and maybe returns and things like that that might come up as well. But it does bring some sort of energy of deception and disillusionment and confusion in our communication with other people. And so it could be that, you know, you might be on the receiving end of a lie. It could be that you might be telling a little white lie just to help somebody to feel better, which is totally a potential with this energy with Neptune and Pisces, which is deeply compassionate and square with Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius, although Mercury in Sagittarius is usually quite truthful. So if you do find yourself saying something that isn't correct, it's probably going to be an accident, more like an exaggeration than anything else, because that's the nature of Sagittarius. Sagittarius doesn't intentionally lie to people. But with Neptune there, you might find yourself unintentionally lying to somebody and deceiving them, you know, saying something that isn't accurate without really knowing that it wasn't accurate when you said it, and then later on it might come back and bite you. So just make sure that you're very aware of what you're saying and saying what you mean, meaning what you say, and sort of doing your due diligence before you initiate an important plan or an important conversation with somebody on that day. Really Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that'll be really active. There could be a lot of brain fog, a lot of laziness, a lot of people just sort of floating off into daydream world, out into outer space. And so that's you know, sort of the energy that we're starting off the week with. It's a very good energy for very compassionate communication. It's a good energy for thinking about creative pursuits and creative ideas, for having mystical, spiritual conversations and communications with people in our lives. But it's a little difficult in terms of locking in anything tangible. And so just kind of be aware of that. And whatever you think you know on this day, you might not be seeing it very clearly. You might be seeing it through the lens of rose-colored glasses or idealism. And then as we come into the end of this week, we're going to have two aspects coming exact on Friday. We'll have Mars at the end degrees of Pisces, right? Yeah, Mars at the end degrees of Pisces, which will be coming into a conjunction with Chiron. And so we have this Mars-Chiron conjunction here, which I put in the wrong place again. Mars and Chiron at the end degrees of Pisces. And so this is going to bring up potentially, because when you talk about Chiron, we're talking about the energy of the wounded healer, right? This is sort of an awkward, shameful, vulnerable, guilty traumatized energy sometimes, and it can be a little bit difficult to deal with. Usually when we have Chiron coming up by transit, it can bring this sort of awkward energy, and so there could be some sort of awkwardness or some sort of guilt or shame around accessing our willpower, especially in the areas of our lives that are going to be impacted by this conjunction in our charts, which we'll go through as we go through, you know, each sign. The other energy that's coming exact on Friday is going to be a really positive one. We have Venus, which has been transiting the sign of Scorpio for a couple of weeks now, is going to be making a really nice sextile, which is a positive aspect. It's a supportive aspect with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. And so when we have Venus in the sign of Scorpio already, we're craving deep intimacy, we're craving loyalty, we're demanding loyalty in our relationships and in our all of our relationships, not just romantic relationships, but all of our partnerships, all of our friendships. There's this energy of demanding loyalty, of you know, trust issues coming up, power and control issues coming up in relationships. People become a little bit more jealous, a little bit more suspicious, a little bit more possessive. But when Pluto is in the sextile, which is a positive aspect, it comes across in a more positive way. And so what this brings is a deepening of intimacy in all of our close relationships, romantic partnerships, you know, close friendships, business partnerships. This could even bring up power and control issues in terms of finances that could be very easily resolved and worked through throughout this week, especially at the end of this week. It's going to help us to deepen our connection, maybe reignite some passions and some flame in our love relationships. This is really great energy for, you know, deepening our understanding of the people that we care about. So having those really deep conversations, figuring out what makes people tick. This is a really great energy for dealing with financial issues, and especially debt issues and things like that, where we're dealing with the corporatocracy, right? Pluto and Capricorn, where we're dealing with Scorpio energy, which has to do with debt and other people's money, taxes, joint finances. And we can really easily shift the power and re-empower ourselves in that sort of realm of life with this energy. But that's pretty much what's going on this week. There's not a whole lot of craziness, like I said before. And so I'm going to just launch right into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning with the sign of Aries. But first, I need a drink of my coffee. Okay, so there it is. That way. For Aries and for Aries rising. So you're going to be having at the start of the week, the confusion is going to be in the area of your beliefs, your travel plans, your higher educational pursuits. There could be some deception coming in or going out as it relates to those sorts of themes. You might have some confusion around your belief systems, your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, or some confusing conversation that causes you to second guess yourself when it comes to your morality, your ethical values and belief systems, your integrity. There could be a confusing communication or something that you're not seeing quite so clearly about higher education or your grades, even if you know, just had finals, if you're in school, where, you know, it looks like it's one way, but it might not quite be what you think it is, or you might have like overly optimistic ideas about the grades that you're going to be getting, and it doesn't quite turn out that way. The other energy that's coming exact is this Chiron conjunction to Mars in your 12th house. The 12th house is the house of hidden enemies, and so there could be some sort of awkwardness, shame, or guilt around, or old trauma, old wounds that are brought up around people going behind your back, doing things behind your back, deceiving you in some sort of way. There could be some sort of spiritual crisis or a crisis of acting on your spiritual beliefs, where there's some sort of awkwardness, guilt, or shame around that area, or just an inability to access your willpower. And to utilize it, you know, appropriately in pursuit of your ambitions out in the world. And so these energies, these issues might be coming up for you. The other thing that's happening is you're going to be having a really nice energy between Pluto in your 10th house and Venus in your 8th house with this sextile aspect, and this can really help to bring balance to power and control issues, especially as they relate to your work, the hierarchy in your workplace, and your finances, especially joint finances through marriage, inheritance, debt, other people's money. And so this is a really great time to work on those themes, to let go of any abuse of power on your end, and to re-empower yourself and take back control wherever you need to do that the most. All right, and for Taurus and for Taurus rising, Mercury is going to be coming into square with Neptune in your 8th and in your 11th house. And so there could be some sort of deception involving money or resources or sex or, you know, some sort of deep-seated fear, wound, insecurity, vulnerability that's coming from your social circle, that's coming from your group of friends that you like to spend time with. You might not be seeing your friends very clearly. You might find yourself exaggerating or lying to them, or saying something that isn't necessarily true to sort of protect somebody's feelings, or you might be on the receiving end of that as well. This could bring up some confusion around finances, especially joint finances through marriage or debt, taxes, inheritance, those things that I mentioned before. Chiron conjunct Mars is going to bring up some awkwardness around taking action as it relates to your social circle and your friends. It could be just you feeling shameful or guilty about needing to take back control, or to needing to assert yourself within your social circle a little bit more, taking on a leadership position, pursuing your ambitions, regardless of what other people think. And so that type of energy might be coming up for you as well. This is Taurus, by the way, that I'm talking about now. I'm not used to doing this yet, so I apologize. I think I did that last week too, where I forgot to bring up Taurus. So there's Taurus. This way. That way. So anyway, for Taurus and for Taurus rising, the other energy that's coming up for you is that Venus is going to be in sextile with Pluto, and this is happening in your 7th and in your 9th house. And so this could help you to deepen your passions and deepen your commitment to your relationships, reignite sparks in relationships. This can help you to come into new partnerships and friendships and close relationships that can be very loyal and very long lasting, where you can really trust somebody, where you can, you know, share yourself with them, and where you can get to know them on that deep level. This is also you aligning your desires and what you truly want and need in relationship with your integrity, with your moral and ethical values. And so there could have been a clash there, and now this is bringing some sort of resolution, or some very some energy where you can very easily come back into balance by maybe relinquishing some control in your relationships, or by taking back control where you've been disempowered yourself in your partnerships or in some sort of contract or an agreement this week. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, Mercury is squaring Neptune in your 7th and in your 10th house. And so there could be some confusing communication coming in as it relates to your work and your business or your business relationships. There could also be some confusion, deception, disillusionment coming into the area of your relationships where, you know, you thought things were one way and you find out that maybe it wasn't necessarily that way. Or maybe you're being lied to or deceived by somebody that is very close to you, right? Or by a business partner or some sort of business contract that might be deceptive, that might not be what it seems to be. There could be a decision that you need to make as it relates to a contract or agreement, or as it relates to a relationship that you might not be seeing very clearly right now. And so it's best to sort of wait that out. And this is Gemini. See, look what I'm doing here. I'm re-recording this because I did so poorly with this the last round, and now I'm doing the same thing. All right, so this is still Gemini. It was already Gemini. It's still Gemini. Hopefully there will be timestamps in the comments that will correlate with the actual signs and not this. But for Gemini, the other energy that's coming in for you is that Chiron is conjunct Mars in your 10th house of career. And so there could be some sort of vulnerability, some sort of awkwardness, some sort of insecurity that comes up for you around asserting your willpower and taking action as it relates to what you need in order to pursue your ambitions when it comes to your career goals and plans. And so that might be something that you're working through, that might be dredged up for you in one way or another, that you have to work through and heal through. So that way you can be more empowered to act on your own self-interest, to act on your goals, to pursue your ambitions moving forward. The other energy that's happening for Gemini is that Venus is coming into a really nice sextile with Pluto. Venus is in your 6th and Pluto is in your 8th. And so this could bring about some sort of healing, maybe healing through lining up with a new relationship with somebody who helps you to see what you really truly need in order to heal yourself from the inside out in that sort of deep way, you know, from the psychological to the emotional to the spiritual, all the way up to the physical. This could also be, you know, some sort of new contract, new agreement, money that comes in through the hard work, the efforts that you've been putting into the 6th house that helps you to take back your power in the 8th, which has to do with debt and taxes and joint finances and inheritance. And so, you know, maybe this is going to empower you to pay off, you know, the last of a loan, or to, you know, get rid of your credit card or something along those lines, because you've been working really hard in the 6th house and you're getting the fruits of your labors, and you're able to take back control of your finances because of it. But again, this is an energy with sextiles. Sextiles are not like trines. They have to be activated. So you would have to do something in order to make this happen. So the energy's there, the potential's there. It's just a matter of how you're going to use it, or whether or not you're going to use it. Gemini, Cancer. There we go. So for Cancer and for Cancer rising, Mercury is in your 6th house of work and health and daily routines, and it's making a square to Neptune and Pisces, and Neptune and Pisces is in your 9th house of beliefs. And so there could be a disconnect between or a challenge between your very compassionate, loving, you know, charitable, spiritual, interconnected beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, the beliefs that frame your reality and the way that you sort of move through life. There could be a conflict between that area and your work and your day-to-day routines and what you have to do on a day-to-day mundane level in order to sustain yourself through meaningful labor. This could be you wanting to make plans to show up in service of other people in a new way through the work that you're doing out in the world. And maybe, you know, you're not quite sure how you can align this with your morality, your moral values, your integrity, your belief systems. And so incorporating, you know, both energies in one way or another. This is maybe a confusion around some sort of health issue that could be coming up for you this week as well, where you think that you know what's wrong and what you need to do, and then you find out otherwise, or that you take action on something and later on you realize that it wasn't the right action to take as it relates to your health routines. So, you know, maybe if you're thinking about some sort of New Year's resolution as it relates to your health and your daily routines, maybe you don't have it all figured out yet. Maybe you should, you know, give it a couple weeks. Wait until after the eclipse, after the new year, to jump in and start something. And then this nice energy here between Venus and Pluto is happening in your 5th house of romance and your 7th house of partnership. So this is a great energy for deepening your passions in your current relationship. If you're in a relationship, this is really great for getting to know your children or your grandchildren a little bit more. This is really great for romantic partnership of all kind. Really, it's a very passionate energy. This is going to really like reignite the passion and reignite the fire in your relationship at the end of this week. So if you are in a relationship, this is a really great energy. This could bring in, you know, a new flame or something like that if there are other alignments in the chart that support that for you. And if it is, it's going to be a very loyal, long-lasting, really passionate, exciting relationship. There's also an energy of Chiron conjunct Mars in your 9th house. The 9th house, as I mentioned before, is the house of beliefs. It's the house of your integrity. It's your moral and ethical values. It's the way that you move through life and learn through experience. And so Chiron conjunct, or Mars conjunct Chiron in that area might be highlighting an awkwardness, shame, guilt around taking action on your beliefs and, you know, the things that you value on that sort of ethical, moral level. This could also be an energy of sort of awkwardness or vulnerability around taking action as it relates to higher education, as it relates to long distance travel. You know, it really depends on how you utilize your energy and what's going on for you personally. All right, and then for Leo and for Leo rising. There we go. For Leo and for Leo rising, this square between Mercury and Neptune at the beginning of the week is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of fun, play. It's the house of love and romance. It's the house of kids and childlike, you know, behaviors and things like that. And it's in square with Neptune, which is in your 8th house, which is the house of power and control. And so there could be some sort of deception coming in from the outside that's not allowing you to empower yourself to do the things that you love to do, to explore your creative self-expression out in the world, which is something that Leos really love and, need to be able to engage with. This could be you having these really big plans in terms of doing more things that you love, like your hobbies, your interests, your passions, and there's something going on behind the scenes and beneath the surface that you don't really realize at first that, might be disempowering you and preventing you from moving forward. There's also an energy with Chiron conjunct Mars in your 8th house, which could be some sort of awkwardness around asserting your dominance or taking action as it relates to joint finances, paying off debts, or just simply empowering yourself and holding yourself in your own power, right? And so looking at any deep-seated wounds, vulnerabilities, insecurities that are causing you to become fearful or frozen and preventing you from moving forward with your dreams, goals, and ambitions that are disempowering you in any way. This is also going to have a really nice energy on Friday between your 4th house of the home and family and your 6th house of your daily routines. And so this could be a really nice time for you to come back into balance in your home and family life. This could be a really great time to get to know your family members on a deeper, more intimate level. This could be a really great time for you to get to know yourself and what you truly want, need, and desire in your home life. You know what you want for your career, maybe. You know what you want in your relationships. But what do you want when you come home? What do you want to come home to? How are you going to come back into balance and achieve your desires, have a harmonious little sanctuary space behind the scenes there. This could also be you figuring out something that you need in order to come back into balance in your day-to-day routines in order to achieve deeper healing, right? Deep healing from the inside out. So psychological and emotional healing on top of physiological healing. And so that could come into play as well. And this could bring about through a family relationship some sort of idea or new plan to help you to work through your daily health habits, to incorporate something new into your daily health routines that does actually facilitate better nutrition or detox or regeneration of your energy, restoration of your health, all of those sort of Plutonian and the 6th house things. All right, and then Virgo and Virgo rising. There it is. So for Virgo and for Virgo rising, Mercury is going to be squaring Neptune in your 4th house of the home and family and your 7th house of relationships. So for Virgos in particular, there might be some deception going on in your family relationships this week. You might be on the receiving end of deception. You might find yourself exaggerating when you're telling stories, making these big grandiose sort of claims, toward your family members, and maybe not even realizing that you're stretching the truth. This could be you being deceived about some sort of contract as it relates to your home and family or your property, or just not seeing it very clearly. Maybe you're deceiving yourself and you're a little bit overly idealistic and sort of have this fantastical view of how things are going to work out for you in your home life, your family life, or in an important relationship. And so you might be on the receiving end of some disillusionment moving forward, after this energy comes out to play. Then you have Chiron conjunct Mars in your 7th house, which again is the house of relationships. And so this could be some sort of awkwardness or old wound, shame, vulnerability that comes up for you as it relates to taking action in your relationships or as it relates to your sexual partnerships, because, Mars rules our sexual expression out in the world. And in the 7th house of relationship, there could be something that's holding us back, like an old fear, an old wound, an old insecurity that's maybe preventing you from fully enjoying yourself in the bedroom, right? That could be something that comes up for you as well. This could also be any sort of wounds or guilt or shame that's preventing you from asserting yourself in relationship and having your needs met. So all of these things could be coming up for Virgo rising. The other energy is that you have Venus in your 3rd house in a nice sextile with Pluto in your 5th. And so this is a really great time for playful communication, for creativity, like deep forms of creativity, especially as it relates to communication. So, creativity in the form of writing or self-expression through language, right? This could be a really great time to have a very deep, intimate conversation with a romantic partner. So that's something that you could, think about doing as well. In general, this is a really great time for you to communicate something deeper, to communicate something with deeper meaning, to not just have service level nonsense, right? It's not not a good time for niceties and for small talk, but this is a really great time for you to connect one-on-one with people and have those really deep, really intimate talks. All right, and for Libra rising, this square between Mercury and Neptune is happening in your 3rd house and in your 6th house. And so there could be some sort of confusion, some sort of miscommunication, some difficult energy around, or some sort of deceptive or confusing energy around your work, right? So you might get a confusing message from your coworkers, or you might get a confusing message from your boss or from the people that you work with, and you might not know what to do with that information. You might get... you might have some sort of miscommunication as it relates to your work and your day-to-day health routines. You might get a confusing message about your health from your doctor or something like that, and then he goes on vacation for the holidays and you can't call him back. And so you might think that you know what's going on, but you might not be able to see the whole picture until a little bit later on down the line. But in general, for Libras in particular, there's a lot of energy around potential for miscommunication and for not being able to see things very clearly in the realm of what's being communicated to you. So you might be a little bit more easily deceived at the start of this week. And then for the Chiron, so you have Chiron coming, or Mars coming into a conjunction with Chiron in Aries, and so this, or in Pisces, and so this is happening in your 6th house of work and daily routines and health. And so I would say that this is potentially going to bring up some sort of wound, awkwardness, guilt, shame, insecurity, vulnerability around your ability to take action and to assert yourself in your work, or to assert yourself and to do the things that you need to do in terms of taking back control of your health, right? This could very literally bring up health problems or health issues that maybe need to be addressed, that haven't been worked through. All of that is a potential here. The other energy that's happening for Libra is Venus is coming into a really nice sextile with Pluto in your 2nd and in your 4th house of the home and family. This is actually a time when you, like, a property investment could pay off. You could get some sort of inheritance or some sort of money from your family members over the holidays. You could be on the receiving end of just some sort of payoff from an investment that you've made. This is a really great time to potentially even move forward with some sort of investment, although I would not sign contracts while Mercury is in your 3rd house or squaring Neptune. But you know, this, at the end of the week, it might be better, right? Because that's not going to be exact anymore, and that's when this energy is coming exact. But this could be a time to, you know, make moves or think about a property investment or, you know, some sort of new partnership as it relates to your place of living. So getting a new roommate or inviting somebody to live with you, that type of energy. And, you know, there could be a financial payoff from engaging in such activities. For Scorpio rising, Mercury is in your 2nd house of finance, squaring Neptune in the 5th house, which is the house of play, fun, children, romance. And so it could be that so I would say for Scorpio rising, you would probably not be able to see your financial situation very clearly. You might be either freaking out because you spent too much money for Christmas, or you might overspend, you know, at the start of this week trying to get those last minute gifts, and you thought the money was there and you were overly expansive and generous and idealistic about your finances. And then, you know, you have this moment of disillusionment later on in the week where you're like, oh crap, I spent all my money. That could be part of it, right? So just be careful and keep an eye on your spending, keep an eye on your budget, because you're not necessarily seeing things clearly. There might be a bill that you forgot about or something that you're not necessarily picking up on. There I go again, not remembering to put up the little image. I'll remember better in the future, I hope. All right, and so there could be some confusion around finances, or you might be on the receiving end of deception about finances. Maybe a romantic partner says that they need help financially, and they're not spending it on what they say they're spending it on. And you see them this loving, compassionate energy, and so you give it to them anyway. Or the same thing goes for your children, right? If you have children and they're asking you for cash, they might not have their intentions for what they're using it for might not be what they're saying, or you might not understand it very clearly. The other energy that's happening is there is Mars conjunct Chiron in the 5th house of romance, of play. There could be some sort of awkwardness, guilt, or shame around taking action in in favor of your creative self-expression or in favor of your passions and the things that you love to do. Maybe you feel guilty about enjoying yourself and going out and experiencing pleasure. There's a really nice energy forming between Venus, which is at the 19th degree in Scorpio, in trine with Capricorn in the 3rd house of communication. This is a really great time for Scorpios for deep, intimate, like loving communication with other people. I would say that this is a great time to deepen your intimacy in relationships, to have those really difficult, deep talks with people. It'll go a lot more smoothly at the end of this week. People are going to be much more drawn to you. Already with Scorpio, it's very magnetic or repulsive. So when you have Scorpio on the ascendant, people are going to be either really drawn to your energy or they might be a little bit intimidated by it. And this is a time when you're going to be seen as much more charismatic and people will be drawn to you like a magnet. And so you might find yourself attracting all the right people at all the right times to help you further your goals. And you might find yourself on the receiving end of a lot of really interesting communication this week as well. I would say that this is going to be a good week for connecting with people, especially at the end of the week. And especially if you have your sun, moon, rising in Scorpio toward those end degree, or those toward that 19th degree. So I would say between 16 and, what would that be, 22 degrees. So I would give it a 3-degree orbit of influence there, where you're going to be feeling it really the most. There it is. So for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this Mercury square to Neptune is happening in your 1st house, which is the house of self, and it's happening in your 4th house, the home and family. You might be on the receiving end of some sort of confusing communication or deception as it relates to your family, and it might be directed right toward you, especially if you have your rising sign or your sun or moon right at that 14th degree or a couple degrees before or after. So I would say 12 to 16 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius will be affected by this the most. And so there might be a lot of confusion about what action to take. You might have your family members saying something and meaning something else, or you might not necessarily interpret their meaning appropriately, and so you might deceive yourself into thinking that things are one way, and then you end up with this moment of disillusionment when you realize that it's not. In general, this is not a great time for thinking things through and making decisions for Sagittarians, so I would hold off on anything of the sort. You might be seeing and thinking about your family members, or just in general thinking about life much more idealistically. Already Sagittarius is very optimistic and very expansive, but it's also a truthful sign, right? When you have Neptune in the mix, you might be lying to yourself about something. And it could be something that's very important, so you might want to wait a couple days before you initiate any sort of plans or action or agree to anything, at the start of this week. The other energy that's happening is Mars conjunct Chiron in your 4th house of the home and family, and so this could bring up old wounds, vulnerabilities, insecurities as it relates to taking action within your family group. It could bring up an old shame, wound, vulnerability around a crisis or around some sort of old argument or disagreement amongst your family. This could be, any fears or any awkwardness around taking action or initiating action toward maybe purchasing your own home or doing something related to your home, your family, your property. This is going to also bring a really nice energy between Venus in your 12th house, which is the house of the subconscious. It's the house of dreams. It's the hidden house. It's where we go to rest and relax. And so this is a good time to, relax in solitude and seclusion with a partner or something like that. But this is going to be in a sextile with Pluto and Capricorn in your 2nd house. And so there could be a hidden source of money that comes through for you this week. And for Capricorn and for Capricorn rising, Mercury is in your 12th house of, it's the hidden house, right? And so for you in particular, in squaring Neptune in your 3rd house of communication, for Capricorn in particular, you might be on the receiving end of some sort of communication where you're not, it's very hidden beneath the surface. The actual meaning of what's being communicated to you might run a lot deeper. It might be, you might have to sit with it and let it sort of fester in your subconscious for a little bit before you can really see very clearly what's going on here. This is not a time when your mind is going to be working optimally, and you're going to be thinking more in terms of visions, impressions, than you will in terms of like logistics. And so it's a really great time for creativity. It's a really great time if you're a writer or you like to journal or do things of that nature. This is a great time for that. But in terms of getting your point across and communicating effectively or understanding people, very effectively, the start of this week might not be the best time for that. And you could be on the receiving end of a communication that's either deceptive intentionally or unintentionally deceptive, or you might just be, and this is Capricorn, not Sagittarius, you might just be the reason why there's a lack of clarity there because you're not thinking things through, or you're just not able to picture it or to see all of the facts right away. This Chiron energy, so Chiron is, Mars is conjunct Chiron in your third house of communication, and so this could be some sort of awkwardness, guilt, shame, vulnerability around asserting yourself through communication, communicating your feelings and your needs and desires in a very direct sort of way. And so that might come up for you this week, or some sort of guilt or awkwardness around siblings and, wanting to assert yourself and, stick up for yourself, maybe, amongst your extended family members or something along those lines. Pluto is going to be in your sign, making a really nice sextile to Venus. And so this is a really great week for you with Venus in the 11th house to connect on a deep, intimate level with friends, to forge new bonds within your friendships, to really get to know people on a very deep, intimate level. So, having these one-on-one connections with people that you would normally see in groups, and getting to know people on that deeper level. So really getting to understand the people that you surround yourself with and forge those loyal, deep connections with them this week. Okay. There it is, Aquarius. Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So this Mercury square to Neptune is happening in your 11th house of friends, social networks, the people that you surround yourself with by choice. And this is also happening in the second house of finance. And so there could be some sort of deception around money or resources, or some sort of confusion around money or resources that comes in this week. There could be very confusing, disorienting communications from friends, from social networks, groups of people that you surround yourself with. Social media for you might be a crazy, confusing circus, and it might be in general with Neptune squaring Mercury this week. But for you in particular, that might be an area where you want to steer clear of because it might cloud your judgment in one way or another. And in general, if there's some sort of important communication that comes up related to your friends and your social networks, just know that you might not be seeing things quite so clearly right now. And so, give yourself a couple days before you react or respond. There could also be, some worries or some stress or anxiety around finances that maybe isn't warranted, or you might find yourself overspending on gifts for your friends or something like that and not realizing that you've overextended your budget with Neptune and Pisces in the second house. There's an energy with Mars conjunct Chiron and Pisces also in your second house at the end of this week, where there could be some guilt, shame, vulnerability, awkwardness around asserting your willpower in pursuit of resources. And so, thinking on those themes and figuring out what comes up for you can help you to figure out where you need to focus your energy toward healing. The other thing that's happening is that Venus is in your 10th house of career, making a nice sextile to Pluto in the 12th house. And so you might be able to harness some power from sort of a subconscious deep inner source, or from, your spiritual practice or something along those lines, in order to help you to come back into balance as it relates to your work life, to connect with the right people in positions of power and authority who can help to bring more money in through the work that you're doing out in the world. So you might be making these really powerful, really beautiful connections with people as it relates to your work and your career that can help you to further your career goals and plans this week. For Pisces and for Pisces rising, Mercury is in your 10th house of career and public reputation, making a square to Neptune in your first house. And so you may be on the receiving end of some sort of deception let's get rid of this. You might be on the receiving end of some sort of deception from your people that you work with, right? Your coworkers, your bosses. You might be lying to yourself about something about your career, and you realize, maybe you're going through the moment of disillusionment where you realize that things are not what they seem, and you've been lying to yourself and deceiving yourself. Maybe you've been telling yourself that you're going to get some sort of promotion or some sort of bonus, and you realize that it's not coming through. But you could be on the receiving end of deception, or you might unintentionally deceive someone in your workplace this week. So just be careful with what you say. Don't exaggerate. Make sure that you're crunching the numbers and conveying them accurately and not overinflating things. Especially for people who have Pisces rising around that 13th, 14th degree. So I would say anywhere from 10 to 16 degrees, maybe 17 degrees even, you'll be feeling this the most. And it could just be a lot of confusing energy where it's very difficult for you to make up your mind, especially about a career-related decision. There could be a lot of ambivalence around your career and your public reputation this week. And so that's going to be at the start of this week. It'll lighten up as we move through toward the end of the week. Mars will conjunct Chiron in your first house, and so this could be an awkwardness around asserting your willpower and acting on your own needs and your own self-interest. Pisces is very loving and compassionate and caring, and but Pisces can martyr themselves for other people, right? That's the nature of Pisces. It's like caring for other people's needs before your own needs. And so maybe this is showing you where maybe you feel guilty for doing that, or maybe you've allowed yourself to take on too many obligations, and it causes you to feel awkward about taking care of your own needs first when you need to. And so any sort of awkwardness, any sort of guilt, any sort of old wounds or traumas around you taking action decisively, you pursuing your own goals and ambitions that comes up this week, that's showing you really where you need to focus your energy on healing. The other thing that's happening is that Venus is going to be in your 9th house, which is the house of beliefs. It's the house of foreign travel. It's the house of what you learn through your own experience, higher education, higher wisdom. This is going to be coming into a sextile with Pluto in the 11th house of friends. And so this is a really great time for you to have these deep, intimate, expansive conversations with your friends about their beliefs, their goals for the future. It's a good time to figure out what makes them tick, to figure out what they believe about God, the universe, the world around them, their philosophies on life, so you can understand your friends on a deeper, more intimate level. And so this can promote a lot of really great understanding, and this can help you to understand yourself and your own beliefs a lot more easily as well by having these deep communications and conversations with groups of people this week. This could also be you honing in on some sort of plans or goals for travel for the future, especially travel in relationship or in partnership with somebody else, or traveling with friends or with a group of people. That's something that could be supported by this energy. And so, overall, it's a good week to have those very intimate conversations with people, especially as it relates to their beliefs. So getting to know people on that level. All right, so thank you all so much for watching this video. If you like what you're seeing and you like these forecasts, be sure to subscribe and click that little red button so that way you can get notifications and watch these videos as they come out. And I hope you all have a really wonderful holiday season. And if you want to book a reading with me, I am still taking orders. The link is in the description below. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.